Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning, you two-dimensional beings. You multi-dimensional, two-dimensional beings. So there's a chapter in my second book, the last chapter before the epilogue, titled, this is my second book, it's Zen in the Age of Anxiety, titled Living and Dying in a State of Readiness. And I'm going to dip into that a little bit, but not really very much. I'm mostly going to just do material that's occurred to me in the ensuing years since that book was published. Our meditation practice is about steeping ourselves in silence. That's basically what we do. We steep ourselves in silence. That's basically the whole thing. The whole thing, steeping ourselves in silence. And maybe like a kind of tea that it takes a while to brew. For a while, it's just like water. Nothing's happening at all. But if you just keep steeping it, just keep steeping it, just keep steeping it for shorter times, for medium time, for long times, then its flavor changes. It develops real flavor. And of course, we can get discouraged. And if you don't get discouraged sometime in your sitting, I would say something's missing. Something's missing, because if you really steep yourself in this, in meditation, sometimes you only have, often it'll feel like you only have fleeting moments of stillness, only very tentative moments of stillness. But you do it, and you begin to see how chatter covers up your deepest feelings, including underlying fear that human beings seem to have, underlying fear. And eventually, our thoughts become transparent, and we see underneath the chatter. But usually, what we see underneath the chatter is our thought dreams, our pre-conscious or unconscious thought dreams. That can be a little bit surprising and negative too, because our thought dreams are not always that pleasant, not always that coherent, not always that beautiful. Bob Dylan, if my thought dreams could be seen, they'd put my mind in a guillotine. Right? But we begin to see our thought dreams right there on the cushion, because the chatter subsides enough so we can just be with what's coming up. Just be with it with kind attentiveness. But meditation has to be done continually, well, not continually, regularly, and bringing our gentle awareness time and time again, instead of indulging our shoulds, shoulda, woulda, couldas is what I like to say, or shoulda, woulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Instead of indulging those will come up as part of our chatter. But we settle into the context or the emotional environment of our sitting, surrounding all of that, what I call flotsam and jetsam on the Buddha Nature Sea. The context, surrounding, depth and breadth of the sea, surrounding. So the flavor of the water begins to change. And we see thoughts, experience, feelings float by without getting whipped out. And we don't avoid or deny whatever passes through. We just let it pass through like clouds in a clear blue sky, or ripples on the Daimakasca one is totally transparent to the bottom. And sometimes it is. Sometimes, although not as much as it was. I won't get it as it used to be. So this is what I often use the term, for those of you who've heard me talk over the years, the still point of the turning world. This is what we settle into, a real stillness here. This is the center of our being. And we settle into it when we least expect it, when we least expect it. And it only requires meditation, simplifying our lives, and it's always good to be immersed in nature too. Nature shows us, Immersion in nature, meditating and simplifying. If we don't simplify our lives, it's pretty hard to do it. And a lot of people say, oh, I can't simplify. Well, then this isn't a high priority for you, I guess. I mean, you think it's a high priority, but if you don't simplify your life, it's not your highest priority. You have to simplify. If you simplify your life, then your thoughts begin to calm down. So simplify, meditate, immerse in nature. And then we're able to start living our moments in a state of readiness. Readiness for anything, or everything, or nothing. Readiness means we don't know. We're just here. We're just here. We're ready. And that turning world sometimes seems like it's out of control. It sometimes seems like it's a spinning world, or a roller coaster world. But the still point's still there. And politically, it seemed recently, the last couple of years, like it's so spinning and we can't do anything about it. Now we have a little bit of a subsiding of that with what's happened with Kamala Harris. Many of us do. But we can't trust the outer world. It's always going to be spinning in some way or another. Always has been and always will be. So we can learn to die to our substitute life. That's the life that we create through all these images we have, all of how we should be, how I want to present myself to you. I don't want to present myself to myself. we just let that stuff fall away. We don't need much. We need a little bit of that. A little bit. I did comb my hair this morning before I got here, and I enjoyed combing my hair. I'm lucky to have hair to comb at my advanced age. So when this happens, we're no longer captured by our thought dreams or our spinning world. And our center changes. So it's no longer the thinker. It moves, as I said in my last talk, to Qi or Qi. Qi as in Qigong, Qi as in Tai Chi Chuan, Ji in Japanese is in Jiriki, self-power. We are the self-power school of Buddhism, Jiriki school. So I've talked about TSLA quite a bit over the years. I've always been fascinated by him. His early poetry was full of, if my thought dreams could be seen, and put my mind at a guillotine. Beautiful, dark, dark poetry. Beautiful, very dark. I could quote that, but I'm not. It's in the recesses there. It would come out if I wanted to quote it. Beautiful poetry. But then, as he kept, developing, he became an Anglican. Who knows? He became an Anglican, and he became a devout Anglican. And he had a really rich prayer life, supposedly. And his poems began. He had studied Sanskrit at college, so he was familiar with Hindu mythology and Buddhist mythology. And his poems began to emanate that. And so all of his later poems are very deep, very deep. So that was, we can't say he ever did zazen, but he must have done something. And I think he did say he prayed every day. So a prayer life and a meditation life, prayer life when you really give yourself to asking without looking for a result, gee, pretty good way to settle below your chatter, settle even below the limitations of your thought games. So he seemed to have shed in his later poetry his substitute life as well as the tumult of his thought dreams. So the process of steeping includes, as I've just been saying, experiencing some dis-ease, some lack of ease. And if you do retreats here or sessions here, you're probably going to experience quite a bit of dis-ease, lack of ease. If you don't, probably you must have been smoking a lot of dope every time before you come to Zen Center or something. Katagiri Roshi used to call this, oh, we're putting the snake in the bamboo pole. I just wanted to leave Sesshin every time he'd bring that up. I don't want to be caught in a bamboo pole. And so after a while, if you just do this, the snake calms down, and right inside the bamboo pole is all life. And I thought, yeah, right. Right. For you, maybe. You know what I mean? For you, maybe. But it's true. It's true. Right in the bamboo pole is all life. Within disease is where we find our ease. Because like cures like. That's homeopathy. Like cures like. And of course, even vaccination is like cures like. Years ago, I was very allergic to poison oak in California where I grew up. So I started taking little poison oak. I think I had a doctor helping me, little poison oak drops every day. And one day I took I don't know, I got mixed up and I took about 5 times. I think I was only to take one. I took 5 drops. I had a huge breakout of poison oak. So like cures like up to a point, which reminds me of the psychedelics. The psychedelics were, when we took them in the 60s, we took really high doses. And so some of my friends' heart barely came back. Some of my friends were hospitalized with psychosis because it was like me being swelled up with poison oak. They just ingest this stuff. And then it became outlawed. Well, you're not surprised. Of course, Nixon was involved too. I don't think he ever would have trusted even mini doses. But now it's coming back. But in a more homeopathic form. It's being used in many different states. And ketamine is the only one legal in this state, but if you go to Oregon, psilocybin, and sooner or later psilocybin, I think, is going to be legal here again. Oh, interesting. That's because people are being homeopathic about it now. People are realizing having a therapist, not taking too much, being in the right setting, having the right mental self, well, that's important. And of course, the same is true of meditation. So we took psychedelics then, and we did our Zen practice way back before most of you were born, because we wanted to experience ego death. And if you remember this, nobody talks about it anymore. Ego death, ego death, ego death. Well, I sat with Suzuki, but I don't want to come sit with him every morning. I'm just going to go take some acid. Oh, my friends would take acid and then they'd come sit in the Zendo. It's true. So ego death, that's a type of death that actually occurs in meditation when our thinking mind just subsides and we sink to this deep chi, this deep vital energy that's beyond the limitations of our thinking. Ego doesn't need so much. I give it a little bit, but it doesn't need so much because we feel so alive, we feel so joyful, we feel so engaged just being, even if we're in pain. Even if we're in pain. The second type of death, of course, is literal death, death of the body. And my friends are starting to die, well, because I'm 81, you know. I mean, not too many of my friends died at 31. I don't think any of my friends died at 30, but they're more and more every year they're starting to die. Oh, that's death of the body. It's death of the body. Death of the. And I have an old Zen men's group that's been meeting for many years, also since before many of you were born, I think. We met every month, and now 2 out of 5 are dead. 2 out of 5 have passed. So just me and 2 others. 3 grumpy old men, when it used to be 5 grumpy young men. Or something, I don't know. And that brings me to my latest. So my first friend to die, whose picture was on the altar here and was one of the founders of Zen Center, was Jeffrey Thorkelson. And my second friend to die, thank you, Sue, this is a beautiful picture, was Paul Johnson. Paul and I, in 1975, began coming here. Actually, before 1970, we didn't move here in the summer of 1975. Paul and I would commute to Southeast Minneapolis, where we had a small center. So Paul came here off and on for years. A lot of years he was on. The last few years he was going to Dharma Field. So but he's my good friend. He's still my good friend, although he's left his body. What does that mean? What does that mean? And Paul, here in this picture, and especially in the picture on the altar, he's in the Wind Rivers, I think. The Wind River Mountains in Wyoming. Paul, for more than 40 years, went up to the Wind Rivers every summer. And he really manifested chi when he was in the river. Ki, Jiriki, self-power. He led us all. He led people for more than 40 years. He brought my son up when my son was 7. My son Jed was 7. He brought me up 3 times. You know, with 10,000, 12,000, we even climbed, I think, 14,000 foot peak sometime. And Paul died after being in the Wind Rivers. He was at 10,000 feet. 10 days ago, 12 days ago, he was at 10,000 feet. He started getting short of breath, a little dizzy, and they decided they needed to go down. So they went down, and he had a heart attack and died in the hospital. But he said to me before he left, he thought this might be his last trip to the Wind Rivers. I don't know if he said that to you too. So this might be his last trip. I thought, oh, Paul, you're gonna do this forever. Well, you know, the body only lasts so long. So if we really give ourselves to our lives the way Paul did for all these trips into the rivers, we're ready to die. We're ready to die. Zen practice is about developing that power, not overcoming the chaotic energy that surrounds us, but the freedom at the center of it, the chi, the key of the center, the still point of the continually gyrating world. Which is embodied in Paul and in me until it's not. Until it's not. And where does it go then? Oh, most religion is most focused on where it goes then. What's after? What's after? Where was the chi energy that was Paul? Well, Einstein said no energy is ever lost in the universe. Oh, okay. Well, that energy must be around here then. And religions think they've got this figured out. Hinduism thinks it has it figured out. It's about reincarnation. Buddhism thinks it has it figured out. It's about reincarnation. Here's Dogen. Here's Dogen. When you leave this life and before you enter the next life, there's a place called an intermediary realm. This is called the bardo. The bardo. You may stay there for 7 days. He says 7 rather than 49. I don't know why. You may stay there for 7 days. You should resolve to keep chanting the names of the 3 treasures while you're in the bardo realm, without ceasing while you are there. After 7 days, you die in the mediar. After 7 days, you die in the intermediary realm and remain there. Oh, okay. You resolve to encourage yourself to keep chanting the names of the 3 treasures without ceasing. After passing through the intermediary realm, when you approach your parents to be conceived in your new life, resolve to maintain authentic wisdom. Keep chanting refuge in the 3 treasures in your mother's womb. Do not neglect chanting while you are given birth. So Suzuki Roshi was my first teacher, was talking about this once, and he said, and I said to him, well, do you believe this? And he said, a lot of the teachers I really respect believe it. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But we're so concerned about later that we don't take care of the chi that's right here. So is Paul in a bardo, and 49 days after his death, we're going to do a little ceremony here. And we do 49 days, the Tibetans do it too. And supposedly that 49 days is the person's in the bardo realm, and then they're ready to give birth, to get born. But that's not the way that I've done it, because I'm not a believer. I'm not a disbeliever. I believe in chi, but I don't even believe in chi. I feel chi, but I don't even feel chi. Chi feels me. You understand?
Yeah.
So in Christianity and Catholicism, my grandmother's Catholicism, my grandmother said toward the end of her life, she thought she tried to be a good Catholic. She said, dear, I hope I go to purgatory. She was afraid she'd go straight to hell. I hope I go to purgatory, because purgatory is like the bardo, where you get to hang out, and if you take care of yourself there, you can go to heaven and not go to hell. Okay, interesting. Really not that different from Buddhism and Hinduism. No, everybody will argue with me about that. That's okay. I don't mind. And so all three of these acknowledge there's something after the death of the body. There's something, which may not be a thing. There's something. And of course, all three have spirits all over the place. I mean, we've got bodhisattvas flying around, Buddhas flying around. We've got tankas of bodhisattvas and Buddhas taking different forms. And even read the early sutras, and there's just an assumption that there's spirits all over the place. It's part of the culture, right? And it's part of Catholic culture too. Now, I don't know what Martin Luther and you guys who were raised Protestant think about that, but it's certainly part of Catholic culture. All the angels, all the saints, disembodied form. And my Lakota teacher and indigenous people all believe in the spirit realm. And we're running, my Lakota teacher said to me once, get to know them spirits and they can help you in life and after death. He just said that, just a passing comment. So, now I have a question for you guys. How many of you people in this room have had any kind of experience with presences, with some spiritual force? Raise your hand. About half. How about people online? How many of you? Oh, less people online. Interesting. Presences, and which, of course, in the pre-scientific age, it was just a given. It was just a given. Now, science has explored this and found no evidence to support a spirit realm. So, that's interesting, isn't it? That's interesting. So, if you're wedded to science and you're doing a Zen practice, probably that this stuff seems pretty fuzzy to you. That's okay. That's okay. It's pretty fuzzy to me too. So I've had different experiences with presences myself, and of course, from a scientific point of view, presences are all projections. When you see a spirit, when you feel a spirit, or a deceased one, someone you love, someone who helped you, they're all projections from a scientific point of view, and from also a naturalistic psychology point of view, not from a paranormal psychology point of view, certainly naturalistic. So the pivotal spirit experience in my life, if you want to call it that, was before we had moved into this building. And my teacher in San Francisco had died, Suzuki Roshi. And this new book had come out called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, with his picture on it. How many of you know what I've seen the book with his picture on it? Yes. It had just come out with my teacher's picture on it. And then he died of cancer. And he died of cancer. Before I could go back from Minnesota to see him, he was just gone. But I came down here to a sesshin that Katagiri Roshi was leading, and I think, and this is not in this building, this is in Southeast Minneapolis. After the 5th day of the sesshin, I was staying by myself in the Zendo, and I had been really sitting with wholehearted effort for 5 days or whatever it was. I was getting ready to go to sleep, and I laid down and I saw Suzuki's picture. I saw the book with his picture on it, and he stepped out of the picture. Just like Aladdin did, you know. Aladdin rubs the lamp. I didn't even rub the book. He just stepped out of the picture. He just stepped out of the picture. And then his chi filled up the whole room. and the sky and the heavens and me and everything. And that was my experience. That's why I came here, actually. Because of that, I came here. And when I came down on my next retreat before I moved here, I told Katagiri Roshi about it. He said, "Oh, yes." That's what he said. "Oh, yes." Oh, okay. Oh, yes, that's fine. So is that a projection or is that a presence? Well, maybe it's just a projection. I don't mind. It changed the pivotal moment in my life. It changed my life. Oh. But that stuff is not that important to us in Zen. More important is that we have the opportunity to move through the tangled substitute life, all these worries and concerns, move through them and counter the thought dreams underneath, as heavy as they are, and move through them too, so we can settle and love from the still point. So we can settle into and love from the still point. And we have a readiness to live, readiness to die. And that's called, us Buddhist teachers call that boundlessness. Boundlessness. The Heart Sutra, people who teach the Heart Sutra talk about the boundlessness that the Heart Sutra is pointing to. Boundlessness. So four components to boundlessness coming from the Heart Sutra. First, freedom from beliefs. Even any beliefs, even the beliefs that I shouldn't have beliefs. Freedom from beliefs. And 85% of the Heart Sutra is just dissing all of the key Buddhist beliefs for 400 years. That's what it's doing. 85% of it. I made that 85% up, That's just, it does it in a very meticulous, thoroughgoing way. All the beliefs. Freedom from beliefs. And we don't know. And we don't know. And we love it. We relish don't know. It's not that, oh, I don't know. It's wow, I don't know. Boundless. It's boundless. And the second one is groundlessness. In the Heart Sutra, we say wisdom beyond wisdom. The ground of wisdom, gone. Beautiful. Wisdom beyond wisdom. Not grounded in anything. Just alive, just letting that chi energy just be what it is. That's your nature. Just let it be what it is. You don't need to, it won't get stifled anyway. But you do tend to sort of try to squeeze it, because maybe you're scared by it, or maybe you're too caught in your thinking. I know that. I experienced that. But now I experience that. So the third one is immediacy. No mediator, no chatterer to mediate. Just being here, immediate with the sky, with each other, with the papers in the desk. No mediator, immediacy. And yeah, each moment is also the repository of all the past, present, and future. So it's not this kind of immediacy that's cut off. It's open and spacious. It's boundless. It's boundless. And finally, the fourth one that emanates from Heart Sutra is we're joined to all life. Since all life is a manifestation of this chi, this ki energy, of course we're joined in it. Of course we are. There are endless connections flowing through our lives, flowing through our deaths. Nothing is missing. We're all here together. We've always been all here together. Because as Einstein said, no energy in the universe is ever lost. I'm not sure if Einstein said that or Niels Bohr said that. Do you know, Randy?
I think they both said that.
Oh, he said they both said that.
It's the second one. Second one.
So I'm going to close with a phrase from a poem by Mary Oliver, When Death Comes. When it's over, I want to say I have been a bride married to amazement. I've been a bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I want to say I've been a bride married to amazement. I've been a bridegroom taking the world into my arms. Sun, how amazing that the sun came up this morning. How amazing. How amazing that we're here together the day before Labor Day. Some of us two-dimensionally and some of us three-dimensionally. How amazing. A bride married to amazement, a bridegroom taking the world into my arms. So many of you have heard this before, because I do tend to say the same things many times as I can get away with it before people fall asleep. Then I think, oops, I've said that 13 times. I've got to come up with a different one. So Ramana Maharshi, the non-dual Vedanta sage, when he was dying, people gathered around his bed and said, don't leave me, don't leave me. And they cried and said, don't leave me. And he was there prone, and it looked like he was taking his last breath. And he got up, he sat up and he said, where would I go? And then he lay down and died. Where does it go? It's all here. And yet it's all vanishing. Everything we love, everything we care about is vanishing. And it's all here. So that's what I want to say this morning. And let's see, there's time for a little bit of discussion. I want to thank Sue Peplow for bringing this picture of Paul this morning. Thank you, Sue. I can see this is a little big to put on the altar, right? 49 days.
Tim?
Yeah.
How are you? So you're talking about the second law of thermodynamics: energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it changes form.
Yes.
So I've been trained as a scientist, but you know, I'm open to things, but something about reincarnation feels like the ego is still attached to itself. Like, you know, if you die, I feel like your energy exists, but it's not like you're this individual who you were when you were alive that goes into a new body. It's maybe dispersed into the universe and becomes parts of a lot of other things. And
Yeah,
I'm just wondering what you think of that.
Well, I think I agree. I agree. And yet, many of the people I deeply respect believe in reincarnation. So there you go. Who's on?
At the end of your, towards the last half of your talk, you talked about boundlessness.
Yeah.
And you got really excited about it.
You got excited about it.
You did.
Oh yeah. Well,
So I just I want to go after an assumption, and that is boundlessness is good.
it doesn't know it's good. It's just a sense of wonderful connectedness to everything with no end, no beginning. Doesn't think about, doesn't know anything about good. Too alive to know about good. But it is good. As soon as we get self-conscious about good, we lose it. We lose it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Sure. I got excited about boundlessness. Well, there you go. I'm always excited about boundlessness. I just keep it tamped down. See, that's why I like giving Dharma talks here, because I get to just release. My wife just looks at me. Oh, there he goes again. And my grandson say, "Oh, let's go play baseball, Grandpa." Baseball. Oh, that's boundless baseball. So I play boundless baseball in the backyard. I have really fun playing baseball. I mean, really softball. Remember, I'm 81, so really softball.
You had a question over here, Tim.
Oh,
Yeah,
what are the three treasures we should chant about in the Bardo play?
Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. So I take refuge in a force that is bigger than me, which we call Buddha, and which today I'm calling boundlessness. That's Buddha. We take refuge in the Dharma. We take refuge in the teaching that helps us open up to that force, like my Dharma talk or someone else's Dharma talk or Suzuki or someone else's. That's Dharma. Sangha, we take refuge in the community. There's a community of people who we all share this aspiration, and life is hard. And during the pandemic, life was especially hard. And then we had the pandemic trump both. Oh, that was awfully hard. So we need each other. We need each other. We need a community, a supportive community. The Sangha. Yes.
Thank you for the talk, Tim. I thought it was really great.
Pardon?
Thank you for the talk, Tim. I thought it was really great.
Sure.
I was curious about ego death. About what does
Yes.
that mean? Does that come from Zen, or did that originate from similar tradition?
Yes. You're curious. You want me to talk more about ego death?
Yeah, like I've heard that before, but I guess is that just like enlightenment or boundlessness?
Well, in Japanese Zen, we have kensho experiences or satori experiences. In other religions, we have a moment of grace in the Catholic, my grandmother's Catholic tradition. And those moments are moments where the little self is just gone. There's no one in here. There's just a moment of, as I say, my grandmother would have said, "No, she's still here, but she's gone." Grace, moments of satori, awakening, where the ego is gone. But the problem is that we need to have an ego. I used to think when I was a young meditator that I would get rid of this narrator. And this narrator was always bugging me. But we need a narrator. It's part of being human. We need a narrator who's not all wigged out all the time. We need a narrator. So ego death is fine, it's cool. It can open you up to boundlessness, but we need a narrator.
Tim, you have a question online? Aaron online?
Okay.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, let's see. Oh, hi, Aaron.
Aaron. Sorry, I have to hide myself because
I see you.
I see me too. That's why I have to hide myself. Every time I talk, I see a big. I can't work technology as good as I used to. It's weird. I'll just go with it. My question is about, I've heard you talk a little in the past about how it's possible after loved ones die, how it may be possible to still communicate with them in different ways.
Yes.
I just wonder if you could say a little more about that.
I don't want to say any more about it, because it's not the primary focus of my teaching. I will say more about it to you privately, but
Yeah.
people get infatuated with this. I'm not saying you are, but they get infatuated instead of settling into the chi that's right here always. So I'll be happy in our next one-to-one, Aaron, talk to you about this, but not.
I want to, I understand. I just want to say a little 2 seconds about like why I bring it up. I just bring it up because it's something I'm interested in, because I think it's something that can be helpful to explore, but a lot of us, in our modern age, don't have a lot of connection to traditions or practices or ways of exploring that. And I think it can be helpful. So that's why I asked.
Now, those of you who know me well know that I used to practice shamanism and teach shamanism. And I don't do that anymore because but it's still good stuff, but people I were working with, it turned into a kind of a spiritual materialism for me. And that's not my core way of being. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I used to, I see Monica there. She was, Rosemary and Monica were in my shamanism class that I taught. It was experiential shamanism. How many years ago was that?
14.
Oh, she knows exactly. Oh, she must have been practicing ever since. I still think it's wonderful. I still honor Lakota teaching and Elmer running too, very much. But mostly I just want to tell you that you can all settle into this deep boundlessness, and it's right here manifesting itself in you and around you at this very moment. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. You don't need to believe anything. Just steep yourself in silence. When I was a young man, that's all I wanted to do. I was kind of crazy about steeping myself in silence. Well, if you really want to do this, you gotta be a little bit crazy about steeping yourself in silence. I'm sorry. Maybe you don't have to. I was. Maybe you don't have to. Anyway, it's still a little bit of time. Who else? Yeah.
You said, I feel chi, but then you said, chi feels me.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's an energy that doesn't know anything about me and you. It's the energy that's all alive. So I can say I feel it, but the moment I feel it, it's not, there's the eye's not feeling it, it's feeling me, but it's so alive, you could say me, it, I'm feeling it. You do the tetralemma, Nagarjuna's tetralemma. I'm feeling it, I'm not feeling it, I'm both feeling it, I'm not feeling it, I'm neither feeling it nor not feeling it. Those are all words that describe existence. But this existence is big, it's boundless. Includes the whole tetralemma. Of course, Nagarjuna negates all that stuff. So that's even better, because then you get attached to the affirmation. Oh, still a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about purgatory.
Yes.
It seemed like that wouldn't be a bad place to go for a while. 13th or 14th century Spanish theologian who stated that the average person in purgatory spends 1,000 to 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So compared to eternity, 1,000 to 2,000 years is just a nanosecond.
Yeah.
So I did it. I can do it.
So is that where you're heading for?
Hell, they're not there.
That was my grandmother kept saying to me, dear, I don't want to go to hell. This was at the very end.
Oh, purgatory.
I'm hoping they'll let me in purgatory.
Probably
the
don't
day
approve
is-
this message.
huh?
Yeah.
But somebody told me recently they just thought the Catholics don't do purgatory anymore. They just do heaven and hell. Does anybody know? But anyway, we have our Bardo states, so let's not put the Catholics down. We have our Bardo states.
One thing I like about Buddhism, in hell, we can come out.
That's right.
We have help to come out.
That's right. That's right.
Jizo Bodhisattva.
That's right. Say something more about Jiso.
Oh, Jizo, he has a staff of the rings of all the realms, and he can go between the realms and help us. He's got the keys so that he doesn't get caught in the realm, and he can come in and out. And so if we're stuck in hell, he has the key to open and come down into hell for us and bring us out.
Yes. Jiso.
Very good.
Jiso. Kishtigarba in Sanskrit. I have 2 Jisos in my office. I don't need any more, thank you. Well, that's because whenever I mention something, then people bring me those things.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. 2 Jisos take care of me. Yeah.
But how are you coping with, for example, to hear those stories?
Can you speak a little louder, please?
How you process to hear those stories? Let's say if I need to disconnect from beliefs, do I truly believe is a hell? What is a heaven? Shouldn't the disconnection of beliefs disconnect for those beliefs too?
You know, I have a hearing impediment, so it's a little bit hard for me to hear you. Ben, can you paraphrase what you said?
I think the question is about the disconnection between believing in these stories and not believing in them. Is that?
But not the stories itself. Beliefs in if I believe is a hell or heaven or the stories are connected with. What is that compared with believe in that or not? Like how I disconnect for beliefs without disconnection or still believe in. It is a hell, it is a heaven. Should I not disconnect for everything? Like
Ben?
Tough question.
Well, stories are wonderful. Human beings need stories. We need mythology. We have a rich mythology like Jiso Bodhisattva. They're beautiful. They inspire us. They help us in our spiritual practice in our lives. But they're all just stories. But without stories, we're not human. We're not human. Part of what makes us human is that we have stories. But I'm not sure if that gets at what you're talking about.
Hey, Tim.
Yes, Carol.
So what I was hearing from what Vanessa was saying, I may be wrong, but correct me, was that, you know, you talk about not having to have beliefs, okay? Our tradition says we don't have to believe anything. So if we're going to follow that tradition of Buddhism and not having to have beliefs at all, then what do we need heaven and hell for?
yes.
We need heaven because we're scared. Because we're scared. We think we haven't led a good life and we're afraid of death. But we think if we take care of our life and we're nicer to ourselves and other people, we might go to heaven. So we need that. But I also don't want to disbelieve. I don't want disbeliefs. We need beliefs. But you know, the third ancestor says, do not seek after the truth, only cease to cherish your beliefs. He doesn't say you shouldn't have beliefs. He says, cease to cherish them. We cherish them, we identify them with them, and when we get caught by them, and then we stifle the chi. Margaret?
Oh, it just comes to me that that's why in Zen we're so attached to koan practice, because it's a story, but there's no real answer. You know, it poses a question without really having a definitive answer. So you just keep, you know, you keep reviewing that story, what comes up for you, you know, when you know, meditate on that. So maybe it's fine to have the stories. It's every culture has stories. It's what supports us and binds us together as human beings.
It's important to do what?
It supports and binds us together as
Yeah.
human beings.
Yeah.
But if we get so attached to it that it becomes a kind of reality that we're no longer
Yes, 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 that's right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all. Let's have some chi coffee now. First, he gets to have make chi announcements.